And this is the Mercedes-Benz Rangers postgame show, and by no stretch of the imagination does the stretch run commence acceptably or happily for the Rangers. Blown out in Buffalo, 8-2 the final. Inside our MSG studios, John Giannone, Henrik Lundqvist, and Brian Boyle. Rangers haven't allowed 8 goals in a game in more than 6 years, since October of 2018 in Carolina. It's their worst loss overall in almost 3 years. How do you explain what we just saw against the worst team in the East, Henrik?
Well, the best takeaway from this game is the fact that they're playing tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the best. They need to forget about this game. It was really disappointing. First period was obviously awful. I thought the second period, though, a lot of good things. Started with a great PK. They start building a game, some confidence. They start hitting way more physical in that second period. Also led to more chances. But I just didn't expect this coming back after the break, realizing they're really they're in a hunt right now to get in every point. We talked about it on the pregame, to approach every game now like the playoffs started, and that's exciting as a player to be in, and you feel like every shift matters. That's what you feel during the playoffs, but they're in it now to try to get in. So obviously it's hard when the game starts the way it did. And you come back, you want to build confidence and a good feeling on the bench, on the ice. But still, I was expecting more of a pushback there.
Well, the start can't happen. You can't start a game like that with all the importance of it, the amount of teams you have to climb, the amount of points you need to get. You're on the outside looking in right now, and that start can't happen. And, you know, on the road, simplifying is usually better. We talked about it in the pregame. That wasn't there. The intensity wasn't there. It looked like a practice, and that can't happen. And to their credit, like you said, Hank, they did push back. They really did. I thought they found a little bit more, and they got some success. They needed to take it up another level, not just expect that their game was going to continue in the third. And it wasn't so bad in the third, and Jonathan Quick had one on that he'd probably like to have back from distance from Tage Thompson. And then after that, they fell apart. They stopped, they didn't push back quite as hard. They really needed to elevate. It has to be from within. It has to come from the players in the group, and it just hasn't been that way all season.
Yeah, well, we challenged our hundreds of employees inside the CDW film room to come up with the most representative goal that the Sabres scored of the 8 tonight, and the consensus says it was the Rasmus Dahlin goal 12 minutes into the first period that made it 2-0. Brian, take us inside the film room and tell us why.
Well, there were so many different parts of this clip that showed why the Rangers had the first period that they had, and why the Sabres, coincidentally had the first period that they had, because it was just battles won. There's 2 Sabres, now there's 3 Sabres. It was a 3-on-2 in favor of the Rangers, then it turned into a Buffalo 3-on-2 with Jordan Greenway coming into the play. And then watch Buffalo. They don't quit on any play. Alex Tuch's right in there. Jordan Greenway just tosses Braden Schneider's stick away and takes the puck. And at one point, you can see here, there's 5 Rangers in the picture. There's only 2 Buffalo Sabres that are paying any attention. And here it is again. He's outnumbered, and Greenway just holds on to the puck. This was his puck, and he wasn't going to give it to anyone. He backs out to a spot where he can have a lane for a shot. Understanding that, Rasmus Dahlin goes down the wall, gets out of his way, and goes to the net where Jordan Greenway usually is. And yeah, it's a fortuitous bounce, and you could call it a lucky bounce, but the fact that Greenway was able to just have his way with, at times, all 5 Rangers in the D zone, they looked confused and they weren't ready to match his battle level. And that was indicative of that first period and the second half of the third period.
And to me, a lot of times when that happens, when you see guys sitting back, they try to do the right thing instead of just play. You want to play on your toes, and if you do that, you would go after the guy. But here you start to see them thinking, okay, who's going, sitting back a little bit too much on your heels. And sometimes that happens when you've been off for a couple weeks now and you try to get back into game mentality. You always talk about playing on your toes and you let your instincts take over. That's when guys go and you show your teammates who's taking who. But when you start thinking, that's when it becomes a lot harder for everyone, because you read off of each other. If I'm going, if it's wrong, but I'm still going, I'm showing you that I'm taking that guy. instead of being in between and try to figure out what the next move is.
All right, guys, so let's address the elephant in the room. Not looking for an excuse, perhaps just an explanation. Rangers were the third most populous team at the Four Nations face-off. They had 6 players there. Only two teams had more. Could any of that have been an impact on what we saw tonight? Intensity-wise, mental or physical effort-wise?
Well, they didn't play that many games. So to me, it's not something you can have it as an excuse. And also, you've been playing and stayed in it, so it should actually be easier for the guys that have been playing. But of course, if you're looking for things to, have as an excuse, it could be that. But to me, I feel like the opposite. If you have a lot of guys not playing, not being in the heat of things, I think that's harder than to go and play in a tournament like that.
Yeah, there's challenges on both sides of it, but most of the players didn't play in it. Obviously, the guys that did, was Trocheck laboring with something? Maybe, yeah, that's probably an issue. And there was an emotional toll in that final game on Thursday. That no question about it. It's different. But JT Miller had 2 assists. He was pretty great. Chris Kreider, I don't know if he came back late in the third, but. He had the power play goal. He was more involved. He had obviously a bigger role for the Rangers than he did for USA. I think there is something to that. It was a much different game with what was at stake on Thursday in a short tournament. It's just a different level of emotion. So for those players in particular, it could drop off. But for a guy like Artemi Panarin, I kind of wanted to see a little bit more, a little refresh. And you had your break, and now it's time to jump back in it. You're a world-class player. You have to be our guy.
Well, the Rangers began the game 4 points behind the wild card spot, the second spot in the East, and that's how the day will end, regardless of what else happens, because even if the Blue Jackets and Bruins win tonight, they'll move up to 62. So the Rangers will remain 4 back, and tomorrow when they go to Pittsburgh for the 73rd consecutive day, the Rangers will be below the cut line in the Eastern Conference playoff race now with just 26 games remaining. This was one of the 5 games before the trade deadline in which the Rangers played a team out of the playoffs. In fact, you see the Sabres at the very bottom there. But it was all Buffalo tonight in their home building. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen celebrates the win. 8-2 the final.